Near everyone in the hall is standing, raising toasts to Jarl Uthil and the Iskloffin success. As the height of the exultation subsides, Skur steps forth and clutches up the crown of Asblot that was laying on the vacant throne. She strides towards Uthil and raises it toward him, dwarfed by the tall warrior, both dwarfed by the nearby Jotnet hunched next to his dais. In a high, pealing voice she calls, "Ear witness to the conqueror of Asblot, and sole heir by right of conquest to this crown. The bloodlines of the high jarls are ended, and no claim to this throne but your own can be heard." At this she bows her head, though doesn't bow. A queer silence begins to descend over the rumbling Northmen, some of them even taking a knee or setting down their horns in reverence. Others exchange shrewd glances and remain as they are. Uthil looks toward the offered crown and then to the folk here assembled. What do you do?
Ingvar is utterly shocked at the idea of crowning someone when there is a king, even if we don't like him. It's always been the case that the king lives on the King's Isle. He would look to like some of the other bigwig jarls to see what they're doing. Like he'd look to Ormsaug to see what his response is, and gauge like who are the kind of people who are kneeling and who are the kind of people who are staying as they are.
If you look to Ormsaug, his eyes grow wide, looking at the crown, and you can see the man imagining his own power rising were Uthil to become king, since he's so closely weft into the saga of the Flamesower. So it looks by his reaction that he's eager to see a king crowned for Iskloffin. None at the table you were at bow, though Eric the Lame is caught in like a hunched half bow, given his laming. And Swanhild instinctively kneels when she sees any other lord or lady kneel. But Thormar is kind of just looking more gobsmacked than anything, like aloof to the full brevity of this moment. And Swanhild would be the only one kneeling. Certainly none of the Iskloffin at your table are kneeling, unless, of course, Droplaug or Rake do. What do you guys do?
Droplaug, her eyes narrow, and she will not. She doesn't wish to be seen either kneeling or conspicuously not kneeling. So she'll withdraw back into what shadows she can find, and leaving the table as subtly and slyly as she can. Yeah, perhaps would seek to remove herself from the situation, lest she give away her deep inner sentiments.
Mm-hmm.
Rake would be similarly surprised alongside Ingvar and many of the others at the mention of kingship being dealt here. Like in his mind, that's like almost certainly like a declaration of war, not just on the scale of like jarls to jarls, but like quite possibly like half the continent to the other. In the event that this actually happens, and the idea of so great a conflict seems both like unavoidable and like unfathomable. So Rake will, for one of the few times in his station, just genuinely not know what to do. He'll look to Ingvar with kind of this like shocked surprise of like, "Whoa, what is this?" And he will not bow yet. He'll wait to see whether his lord in fact does or does not, before he'll make any action, wanting to like fall in line to at least be on the same team.
I think Ingvar will take this opportunity to like make himself noticed, and he'll like loudly scrape his chair out like this, like, and then he'll stand and lift his horn, and like proclaim to the king, and then he'll kneel.
Ormsaug will smile at that, nod his assent, and similarly take a knee, which he's never done before. But he's one of Uthil's loyalists. A few more ripple through the crowd at that, going low in subservience. You hear somewhere else on the other side of the hall, like that shout responded to by the same call, and others like go to the knee there.
Rake will follow suit with Ingvar silently. He won't say any words or give any shouts. He'll just kind of like, as he kneels, just kind of give this like faintest like smile of like whatever's going to happen. This is going to be history, which is the goal. And there's kind of an excitement and a fear that like simultaneously will hit Rake in a very strange mixture.
Yeah, Ingvar is really calculating here. Like, he's also tied in with Uthil in a big way. At least he thinks so. Like, he owes his success and everything that he's gained in the last while to Uthil's decision to move south. And so, if he's king, that puts or it legitimizes all of the things that like Ingvar has claimed and taken. And the better he can get in with him now, the better in the long run. So that's kind of what he's thinking. And he's glad that he was the first one. Hopefully, like, people will have noticed that.
And what's your passive perception, Ingvar?
It is 13.
After a time, Uthil will go back to Skur, who still keeps her head bowed, but those closest can see that she eyes him from underneath her bowed head, and he'll take the crown from her old, seemingly feeble hands into his own. And he'll eye it a moment while other calls of, "To the king! Uthil, king!" He'll draw a long sayax from his side, graven with runes, and in a single surge cast down the crown and sunder it in twain with a great that rings out through the hall. The two halves down the dais and into the gathering silence punctuated for cries of the king. He looks past Skur to the thralls, melt it down to gold wealth for the winter, and then he gestures to the throne behind him. "Cast it into the hearth. Let it warm us tonight as we drink to and remember the valiant dead who wait for us all in Corpse Hall." And at that, the assembly erupts, near reaching the pitch of the previous exclamations, those who did not kneel about you shouting most of all. And a close uneasiness to those of you who had bowed near here descends. Maybe you catch Ormsalg's eye as he rises, unhappy at this turn, unexpecting it.
Yeah, Ingvar will catch his eye with a sort of like, at least we know that we're in the same boat.
Yeah, some old rough men beyond, or old rough lords, I should say, and a group of Ulf nearby are howling and shouting, exulting in the gesture, wanting no part of like that kingship for Uthil. It's not the Northern way. And others who are more shrewd and calculating, like Rake, not wanting it to. It would essentially be a declaration of war. I'm glad of that. Skur seems perturbed by this, though will quickly cover it with like a full bow and then move away from Uthil as he stands to see the thralls do his bidding. And the crown is hacked to pieces, and the great old throne cast onto the hearth in a roaring flame as people shout, "Uthil Jarl."
Yeah, Ingvar's a bit embarrassed. He'll like stand back up and sit at the table and sort of shrug at the others who didn't kneel.
After the toasting is quelled down, the feasting and drinking proceeds. Music is played, and there's a great rumble as neighbouring lords foster new friendship and unity. At the table around you three sits Jarl Berkthgar Isbjornsson and his son Gorm, his thane Eric Skolson the Lame. There is Jarl Magga and two of her brood, and that raven-haired Velva Adis. There is handsome Jarl Thormar and his wife Svanhild. At the head sits Ragnvald Ormsalg, red-faced now, and next to him his wide-eyed sorcerer Uthulf.
No cause to be embarrassed or cause any problems here, I think. I'd follow Uthil wherever he said, and if he wants to make himself king, he's a king in all but name already. Ingvar will sort of say, trying to make himself look less stupid.
Agreed, says Ragnvald quickly. I'd follow him anywhere. East in summer if it is his will, and he raises his cup. Better that than a war with the south, grumbles Isbjornsen before taking up his knife and hacking at the food place down before him. Gorm and the eldest of Maga's sons, silent, offer nothing, but seem listening intently. Maga has a smirk on her face, which Ragnvald seems to like none, as food and drinks brought about. Thormar smiles gently at his wife and swoons over her. A little aloof, perhaps, to the brevity.
Yeah, Ingvar will say, war with the south is inevitable anyway. Don't let us keep all of this. All that we've taken. They like to keep us weak and tired and hungry. There's no way they're going to just sit there and let us stay here. War with the south is happening whether we want it to or not.
True enough. They may make their move in the summer, grumbles Isbjornsen with half a mouthful. Ormsaug says, let them come, before taking another slake of his alehorn.
Still, Southerners value few things greater than their titles, especially things like king and jarl. If Uthil were to declare himself, many people who have no grievance with us yet would have cause to, just by his challenge to their authority. This way, perhaps fewer allies come to their aid, reclaiming lost land. While valuable is much less so than guaranteeing authority of those people that are in power. That's how it works in the South. A wise move not to declare such a thing, I'd say, unless we want blood.
Idis and Maga both smile and in some way or other give their agreement to that sentiment. Gorm scoffs at it as if it's not to his taste, but Isbjornsen regards it as wisdom.
The king, even now, must sit in his castle and think, who is this man who has more land than me? Uthil has more land now than any of them, more than Gunnar even.
We've always held more land, says Isbjornsen after a swallow.
But now it's good land, farming land, and we've never had that before.
We did before the coming of the first king.
And once giants walked the land, it's a long, long time ago, before any of us can remember.
Idis flashes you a look, Rake. If war is coming then from the south, continues Maga to the conversation, when and where will it strike, Balderson? Do you think the king and King's Isle will come to the aid of Drotbainham when we march east in summer?
That's what I would do. Drotbainham is no small target, and they have... And he looks briefly in the direction of the giant in the back of the hall, and then back to the table. All sorts of forces at their command. That's their best hope, I think, of stopping us.
A wise king would strike fast in his future defense. Sigurd's not wise, grumbles Isbjornsen and gestures angrily to a nearby thrall. Bring some more food, come on, quick. He'd rather look at himself in mirrors and play Taffel than see to his realm. He forgets the world there in his island, built by... And he looks across at the Jotun the same as you had, Ingvar, and leaves the sentence unsaid.
It would be foolish to count on it as strategy. We must assume that the enemy will be prepared and act with intelligence. Yet, very rarely is that the case with Southerners. They just as gladly put a knife in each other's back as help each other survive. They thrive off of petty games of lordship. If the king lets Bainham fall, it's one less enemy to deal with. He will not see his own kingdoms burning in front of him. He'll be glad that his enemies have been taken care of. They thrive by not acting and hope that the others do the work for them. And then when they do, they're all the better for it and have more power. They gave up nothing to fight. Some amount of the Southerners may pull that sort of strategy. Let those more northward fight their battles, take the losses, and then use that as a power move against them. At the very least, it's possible.
What about the flamethrowers boy? Says Isbjorn, his mouth refilled with food. They say that mere lord in the south has him. If Uthil pushes too hard, he'll lose his boy.
Uthil can make more boys.
He'll need a wife for that.
Ingvar will look around with a sort of look of like literally anyone he wants.
Yeah, you noticed Grimhild being what looks like bullied by other lords and jarls sitting at her table, being spoken over or like toasted over as she tries to like press her claims and define her borders and engage in the similar activity what others at other tables are doing. And you see many lords and ladies who would willingly give their own relations to Uthil at an instant request, were he to choose a new bride after the death of his wife, which is not spoken of openly, but probably whispered much hurriedly in rumor.
We cannot come this far south to go no further. It doesn't make any sense. You conquer this much, that need for conquest doesn't go away, I would think. So when summer comes again, who knows where? Bainham, and then east further, the rest of Asblot, and then Gunland.
It's hard to say. Uthil keeps his plans close and speaks little of them. Who knows what the true end goal is? He hasn't said anything. At least nothing that I've heard. How far he wants to go, what he wants to take. Could be everything. Could be a little more. Rick will just kind of like shrug with how enigmatic everything kind of seems to be.
If it was me, I'd go south. That's where the money is. That's where the good land is. And they're soft. Why trek it all the way across Asblot and fight more like we have and lose more like we have for land that isn't as rich as that in the south?
And why announce it? Every spy between here and Cohen Castellan will know well of Jarl Uthil's intent. Now that it's been spoken so openly, and she just gestures around to the hundreds of jarls and thanes here, eagerly discussing this military tactic.
Maybe it's a lie, a diversion. We won't go to Bainham, we'll go somewhere else.
Yeah, Idis and Maga go quiet at that, but you can tell by their faces that they're thinking the same thing, and now Ormsalg is. And he has that look of a man left out of his betters consultation.
We must consider, too, that the intent might not be land or wealth in the end either. There are, I'll kind of like nod over to drop log and then like to himself, stranger things in the world than wealth. And Uthil is rich as any man already. His intents may be elsewhere.
With this in mind, what are we to do over the winter? Sit still in our holds and shiver while southern wood burns? No succor from raiding as our grandfathers did, says Isbjorn. We're like slightly aggrieved. Maybe he'd planned some raids that now have been stalled because of this new proclamation. Seems a bit grizzled by it.
We share this land together, all of us here at this table. We should work towards making it better. Roads, bridges, trade routes, things like that. See what we each have in our lands. Make sure that we're trading it evenly and fairly, so that we can all get rich.
Ormsaug leans in at the sound of rich. Eric Skolson says, "We all are connected by the wave road. There's our strength. The old strength, we could make it new. Ports to connect us all in safety, that any ship in storm have somewhere safe to weather."
That's true, but most people who wander selling do not go by ship. They can't afford it. It's too dangerous. And so they walk, or they take horse or cart. And the more roads we have, and the more tolls we have, and the more places that they can stop along the way, the more that we make for everyone who passes through our lands.
Roads then, to each and all. Can we agree on that? And then they begin to grumble, mostly in assent to it. It'll be an expensive and hard laboured thing through winter, but certainly achievable. And by road, cleared trails,
Yeah.
cleared and patrolled trails, not actual roads. But yeah,
It will be a benefit of all of us in the end. I think we'll see that once it's done. And what are you complaining about? I have more to build than anyone else. They'll sort of humble brag.
yeah. Thormar will laugh ha ha at that, but Ormsaug will just eye you greedily, and his Bjornsson will finally set down his knife, his insatiable hunger threatened.
We should also look into meeting every few months, gathering, where we sit and talk and ensure that no resentment or grievance gets out of hand between us.
I have stone walls, a fine place for a council of our western coast, says Ormsaug, puffing his chest a little. Aye, as do I, says Thormar, and would be happy to alternate these meetings as host. And maybe the man's not as aloof as he seems. We should all share in that, says Maga, eager to drive a wedge.
Well, Ingvar doesn't want to host whatever amount of hundreds of people these people bring every time they come. It's expensive and he doesn't want to do it.
Shrewd.
So he'll say, I think we can all agree that Ormsaug is the greatest of us here in terms of rank and station. So perhaps his castle should be host for this council. He's closest to Uthil.
There's no remarks forthcoming at this, and most seem to take it as sense. None will question that his saga is greatest, nor that his bond to the Flamesower is tightest. Though at the talk of the best of us, Gorm is disbelieving and thinks he could cut Ragnvald Ormsaug in half. But he'll just be statuesque and implacable and let his father do the very well. At Bard's Mouth we'll convene every span, every season.
Every season's a little long, I would think. Every 2 months, whenever there's an important blot, maybe.
At that, Uthulf will say into the group, we could convene at the greatest of the blots to have a ting of Braggi's spear at Bard's Mouth 8 times a year.
Ingvar will nod at that.
It would give our people good cause to unite too, celebrating in the gods for what the Flamesower and all others have brought us here to share in the sacrifice and in the celebration. It would be good.
Are we all in agreement then, says Isbjornsson, and Thormar looks around eagerly. Maga will nod as Rake gives his statement, and Edis will give like a prolonged scholarly nod as well.
Yeah, Ingvar will knock on the table in agreement.
Skoll, calls Ormsaug once his cup is renewed, and he'll raise a toast to this new oath, and much ale and mead is spilt upon the table of truth.
Is it kosher to approach Uthil? Are people like coming up to him to talk to him?
Yeah, there would be, though you'd see by his gaze and the gaze of his bodyguards that those of like not, what's the word, befitting rank or station are kind of being like visually harassed or kind of stared off, so that only a few of the petitioners who like throng for his favor can like get through to him. There certainly are, but it's not like they're allowing him to be mobbed by folk.
Yeah, Ingvar is certain of his own importance. So he would like look at those people and think, well, how embarrassing for them, but I'm a big deal. And we'll like look to Rake and to the hammer that they've brought, and then excuse himself from the table.
Yeah, and with the aim of going over to the dais.
Yeah, and like queue up respectfully or whatever if there's lots of people queuing. But yeah,
after a time, not like an inappropriate or anything like that, but like as the file like shuffles on, you can hear like the grovelers and like thanksgivers and well wishers beyond you in the line, prattling on to Uthil, who seems to accept it with like the minimal amount of grace. It's obviously he doesn't like the fawning, and many of like the southern lords who mule and like curry for favor, who like bent the knee for him early in his campaigns, were like hastily reminding him of like the fervor and early timing of their oaths. And he's like, yes, of course, on you go, and all the while Skur stands behind. Closer now, you can see that the woman pervades perturbance. She's pissed off. It's plain to see. Her eyes are leveled, her old lips are pursed, and she scans the room for phantoms. But you can walk past her glinting gaze up towards the dais where Uthil stands, nodding towards the last two brothers, it seems, by their look, who kneel before him and give words to him as they clasp their hands in his and make their way off back to their own lower tables. The older man with like a slate jaw, grey, blue, black beard and short cropped hair looks down a crooked, several times broke nose towards you as you approach, not recognizing you. He looks to a man next to him who has no words for him, and he turns back to you expectantly.
Lord, I'm Ingvar Balderson, called Blackhand. I'm Jarl of the north of Braggi's Spear.
Welcome, Jarl Ingvar. Ragnvald, my bondsman, has told me of your success. Thor loves you, it seems.
So it would seem, yes. Although, with you put me in the position for him to notice me. So I'm grateful. I bring gifts, of course, for this hospitality. This fine hammer, and he'll like pull it out, and I guess it's like pretty fancy to look at, inscribed with runes. And I won't like go to hand it to him, but I'll like sort of present it in a someone is going to take this from me sort of fashion.
Yeah, he'll just reach up and grab the offered thing, looking at it with reverence, eyeing the fine craftsmanship and having some small knowledge of the runes. Looks at it appraisingly. Such a fine boon you offer, Blackhand. I cannot properly thank you.
It's nothing. You've been so hospitable here, and more than that, was you gave me the opportunity to rise to where I have come.
I have no great skill with the hammer. This thing is too fine to sit upon my mantle. I will bear it in memory of your kindness, of your ring-breaking, Lord.
Well, thank you.
That you came with your men and the other sea wolves when I called. This victory is as much yours as it is to any of the men who fought at Gulnjaford, or the Drover's Wash, or the months before.
Oh, that is
Your
good
luck
to
and
hear.
favor is well earned. Sorry.
That is good to hear. There is often some bitterness that we were not there, though it was not by our decision or choosing. Nonetheless, hopefully we can all see that we are all in this together, working towards a better future for our people.
I'm sure I can expect the bright men and women of your headlands to come when I call to go east come the summer.
We shall be waiting hungrily.
Then I will bear this hammer alongside your men and yourself, God's willing, in honor of your oath to me. And you will see it true come the summer.
I look forward to it, Lord. Thank you again for your hospitality.
You are welcome to it for as long as you need, he says, though it doesn't feel like you are.
Yeah. Yeah, once that's done, he'll incline his head and then also to the sorceress, and he'll just briefly look in the direction of the Jotun. He's terrified of this thing, and it's so much bigger up close even than it would seem from across the room. And you can hear it breathing. It makes him shiver, and he'll look in its direction and give a nod, and then he'll go.
Blackhand, come here. He grumbles and gestures with a rolling pin-sized finger towards you, hunched as he is at this stone table that he sits upon as a chair.
Yeah, he'll approach very nervously.
They say you rule the dead stones.
I do.
My grandfathers roamed there. Tell me, did you find anything of telling there?
The bones of a dragon. A great shrine to Skadi.
Skadi, he says, which almost sounds warm, like rocks in a fire.
And ancient treasures also.
I would come to place a boon at Skadi's foot, if you'd allow.
Of course. You are most welcome.
I'll come at the Yuletide to her favor.
We shall greet you warmly whenever you arrive.
He nods his head, thankfully.
Ingvar will do the same, nod his head, and then step back, and he realizes he's shaking a little bit from the force of the voice of this thing, even though he's whispering. And as he's walking back towards the table, he'll think of hosting this guy is like hosting 20 warriors in terms of food. He's always thinking about how expensive it is to host people because he's quite miserly, really. Yeah, so as he's walking away, he'll look at Rake with this look, wide-eyed, sort of what just happened.
Yeah, Rick will return the look of wow, taking the notice of so many great beings in a row is no small feat. In the Jotnet, not even the least among those. And we're just kind of his eyes will show surprise, a sort of wide-eyed impressionist, but his nod will be stoic. And yes, of course, it's only natural that these things should happen. It's a strange mixture.
So at this, the feasting and drinking and politicking goes on, and the night will go on like this for some hours before eventually subsiding and people going to seek their chambers or rest or quarters where they can. Is there anything in particular either of you two wanted to do before I move to the next part?
No, I think Ingvar's done everything he wanted to do.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty set too.
So maybe like the far off sound of the feast at Gulnjaford can be heard when a bow shot or two beyond the walls, breath hoar-frosted. Finn, son of Starkad, holding like a staff that's shaking in his hand with one hand while he keeps the other wrapped up in his armpit, a shawl like wrapped over his head to hood his face, but you know who he is and that he was bid to meet you here, Droplaug. And as you approach, he looks like a man relieved. He'll like shoulder the staff and walk over the fresh fallen like light southern snow here, crunching over it towards you, mistress.
Come, Finn. I would have you take me to where Geyser sleeps.
It is not too far. Come, I'll show you the way. And he'll eagerly like take to a trail he remembers, leading you on through it till the sound and sight of Gulnjaford has disappeared behind you. After an hour or so, when the moon is near at its highest, you'll come to a small glade where all the trees are naked, nearby to like what the center of it looks like was once like an ancient leaf fall. Now is kind of just like a gouged, exposed part of the glade. There stands a larger naked ash tree and snow fallen about. He'll move up and with the stuff hafted at one end will begin to like scrape away at the dirt just kneeling nearby to the crawling roots of the ash. It's a pretty still night. You can see the wide sliver of the moon, silver above, and hear the and scrape of earth as Finn exerts himself. You've grown cold, Droplaug, while Finn Starkadson grows warm from his effort, but eventually, like a heap of earth is pulled over, and by the moonlight and your own keen sense, you can see the fire-blackened and broken bones of Gizor laying in repose in this turned earth in a cradle of weaving ash roots. And Finn steps back. You can see the white of his worried eyes by like the dim light here, and the breath coming out from his mouth, hot and vital, misting and then disappearing after his toil. He instinctively takes a few crunching steps back. After the great pyres at Gulnjaford, I took his bones here, as I like to think he'd have wished, mistress. He was always Odin's man.
Still your tongue, Finn. I shall step closer towards him, each step hesitant but crunching on the snow, and put a hand on his shoulder. Carry your silence and witness. And gently yet insistently, she'll push him back a pace or two, and until she finds he is at a suitable distance, and will look up into his face with a warmth that grows still as her mind moves forward to what she must do, and her eyes gaze up at him, black, deep, and she will move back towards these bones beneath the ash tree. Memories will flood through her, but these bones themselves are more like what ash is to the once bright fire, what the fading light is to the warmth of the day. And at once she'll feel weak and foolish and just whisper, Gizor. It's just a word. Wisp of hot air floats out, dissipates like like a snowflake melting in her hair. And again, she'll whisper, kind of inquiring, asking more this time. Gizor. Of course, he's not there. And her eyes will go from the bones to the tree, to the dark sky and the drifting flakes of snow. And looking back at the tree, she'll remember an old and proud man, still strong, but foolish, stubborn. Her throat will grow tight. I'm sorry, Gizor. Sorry. But I could not. Did not counsel better. I thought I saw. I glimpsed a way through and beyond. But I was wrong. And she'll remember her panic and her flight, the day that he was laid low. Seems so long ago, fleeing back into the forests of her youth. And she knows she should feel glad, at least that perhaps now he's in the Hall of Valiant Dead. But it's not enough. Could never be enough. And though her throat grows tight, her belly grows hot, with the anger of vengeance coiling there. She has made her pacts and grow strong. The mind turns to Skur. She thinks of her visage. A day that she stopped her. Just perhaps earlier that day. Those pacts, these deals she makes, bind her closely too. Fear the witch who is mighty, I said to you, Gizor, for she pays in kind for such arts, and clings close to hidden masters. And you listened, seeing what change she wrought upon your failing lord, blood magic. Fear, I said, but you had to stand and speak. And she'll fall down to her knees, her hand seeking out for the bones. And gently she'll move forward to hold the head. And there'll be probably a creak and a crack as she moves it from side to side, wresting it free from whatever clinging remnants are there, to cradle it in her lap. I am old enough to have been known by many names. They once called me fair, and so I was. Then the cursed, the unmarried. It has been cunning and wise, but you alone have called me loved and meant it. And cradling that skull, she'll look down. I saw the dark workings that day you were struck down. I looked on and saw the twisting of fate, the gripping of a long-nailed hand, unseen on your foeman's blade. I saw Skur's winding ways, to strike down, he that would speak out against the fire sower's witch. And gods forgive me, I did nothing, could do nothing. And standing with the skull, she'll hold it up. I swear by deep ocean sorrow and wrathful sky that I shall find Skur's undoing, but not before she feels the pain of precious loss and woe-filled weaving. I swear it so, Kaiser. By love and longing, by shadow paths and grievous thronging, it shall be done. But only if you wish it to be so. I would hear your voice one more time. And holding the skull, she'll bend her head to it and begin to lick and cherish at the skull of Gizor, beginning an ancient and dark rite, preparing the bones of this body to speak forth any sentiments unspoken, something with the eyes of spirit that it may share for her. And in those dark hours, she'll begin to assemble it, placing back the anointed skull and taking from her pouch a long leather winding, an umbilical cord cured in the tears of a mother for its stillborn child. She'll wind it into a spiral, placing it within the skull. And lastly, draw a knife and leak out precious blood into the mouth and the jaw, the mandible of the skull, and seek to summon forth the voice of Gizor from beyond.
Why have you summoned me from Corpse Hall?
Gizor, hear me. 'Tis Throplauk. I must know if it was Skur that day that cast you down, not that feeble Asblot warrior. I saw shadows, but I must know if you wish vengeance.
Before the battle, Skur blessed us one and all, mightiest amongst Uthil's bonds. Ere she flecked the oil and blood upon me and clasped her hand to my neck, I heard a ringing then and felt a thing, and saw in her face a flash, a visage not her own, of youth, a man, the most beautiful man I have ever seen, crowned in flowers. I did not know then what I know now. Yet on those walls of blood and stone, the Asblot youth's spear caught me. And he turns his head, it creaks, and earth and blood fall from it. You see a flash as a spear is driven up through the flesh of the neck and a great gout of blood. Oh, something in her eyes, something His eyes, the boy's spear that drove through my throat. It did not kill me, but Skur's cunning ways. I would have vengeance, but cannot drink or eat it here.
Gysor, my love, I will give you this gift of vengeance. Such shall be her undoing. But first, she must suffer some small part of the sorrow.
The Norns are cruel, and suffering abounds, by your weft or not. If you love me, oh, leave me.
She'll look down, hearing his plea for rest. And she'll wrestle with her own vengeance and kind of feel in contrast all of a sudden. What the needs of the spirit are versus her own very real mortal needs for revenge. I rest, Gysor, but rest lightly and listen for the turning of tails here in Midgard. And she'll begin with hands cold and icy to cover over these bones once again, heaping the earth, the chill earth, back over, blanket to the resting.
Finn will silently, like a ghost, walk back with you and never speak of what is seen, ever. The night has passed uneventfully for you and Thrimnir, though you've been denied warm feast and endless mead. You've seen to the rounds of the thralls penned in and the camp of your warriors, and are on your way back to the Oxhead, where your own warm chambers and food and drink beckon. The streets are pretty crowded, even at this hour, which is unusual, but there's great hype and anticipation in the evening town of Gulnjaford, as many kind of talk of and wonder at what truly is transpiring in like the great feast hall of the flame sower above. You can see like the lights of that holdfast above from where you are in the street, passing nearby the siren song on your way to the Oxhead. Two men lurch out of it, and one's like vomiting up on himself in the ground, and the other's bawling in laughter. Somewhere beyond, someone's singing a drunken song. A couple of people move out of the way from you along where like a boardwalk should be, though for now it's just kind of mud and muck and ice that you slop along past them, and there'll be a few kind of not like inaudible well wishes striding past you upon the end of your rounds. The hour's late. The moon's probably a couple of hours from midnight.
Yeah, he'll do his best to return the jovial greetings of presumably mostly strangers, happy in their revelry as he walks past, nods, steps aside out the way of the splashing vomit.
Where your turn takes you off the thoroughfare, squelching through the icy sludge, is when you first become aware of like the sound of a woman's bawling, a banging noise, crying out, and then swear words and curses. When you round another muddy corner, past a couple of men supporting each other as they drunkenly wander from one den of depravity to the next, you see a woman standing, illuminated only by moonlight, standing at the front of a low hovel. It's kind of half sunk into the ground, made of wood and well thatched by its look. And there's that light and hint of warmth within. She's banging on what serves as the door, rattling the iron and screaming out vile curses at the men inside. And the door opens as you grow close. Light floods out into the street in a prism, bathing her in it. And a bearded man with like a patch over his eye and forehead will like step out and go to cuff her, and she'll flinch from it slightly. I have told ye, Catler, we want nothing of you. Be gone. Holfrey is dead. We'll hear no more of it, nor want none of you or that. And he points to her swollen belly at that and goes to slam the door, and she jams her foot in and goes to hurl an insult, but there's just a thwack as the door hits her foot, and she pulls it back with an anguished yowl, and then he slams it closed once more.
I imagine that Hringur has come to a standstill as he's watched this play out. And as she stands there with this closed door in front of her, he'll clear his throat from behind her and step into the kind of the shine of the light.
As she flinches away from the looming figure and comes to her feet and tries to adopt kind of a menacing demeanor. It'd be comical, maybe, given her stature and condition, if it weren't so with such confidence. You can hear a harp strumming inside the room now, and hear like the hubbub of men like talking, and there's obviously several folk in there, whatever there is. And she'll like move to step away from the door, maybe thinking that you were amongst them, and throw you a vile gaze, expecting you to walk into the warmth and whatever else of the hovel that she's been denied.
Your man is dead.
And she nods.
You have something to remember him by, though.
Remind me to thank him for it. Fame and coin enough he'll have for the boy, he says. Oh, the flamesower is so giving, is he not? I wonder if he'll raise Holmfrid from the dead.
I shouldn't think to ask him.
You're not with them? She thumbs towards the door.
Passing by.
She nods at that and spits at the door.
Who are they to you?
Holmfrid's battle brothers, she says the term like it's derisive. Oh, fine brothers they are. Now they do not know me. Now that they don't remember that I walked with their wives all the way from the north, through all the guts and shit. For what? I've cooked and cleaned for you, bastards, she cries now, shouts it through the door, but nothing from there is forthcoming.
Well, there is little that they can do for you.
Oh, could they not have me sit by their fire or share in their food? If Holmfrid were here, he'd clout them about the ear.
They should do these things. But as you've said, they've chosen to forget you.
How easy men forget. She crosses her arms over her breasts and looks aside angrily.
Shrug his shoulders at that, as if this is a known fact that everyone should know and should come as no surprise to anyone. When did you last eat?
yesterday. But she doesn't tell you what, and the look on her face tells you that it probably wasn't a pretty meal in the eating or the getting of.
I cannot see a mother to be going without food. The child will need it to grow big and strong. I can offer you that much.
I'd be thankful, Lord.
You were wed to this man, yes?
She looks down, and in an instant you can tell she was a camp follower, possibly even a whore. But then looks back up to you. In a way, she says.
Food is the best I can offer.
Oh, thank you, Lord. I will cook and clean. Let me do anything for you, Lord, if you will keep us through the cold time.
We will see. It could be the case I give you one meal and you forget me.
I will not forget your kindness, Lord.
He really is pondering, knocking on the door and speaking to these men, but I'm sure somewhere in the back of his mind is Ingvar's voice telling him not to cause a scene. So he really has to kind of bite back his first intentions. And so he'll guide her to, I'm sorry, Oxhead. Is where they were billeted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he'll guide her on.
And there you can find warmth, food, drink, and rest, which is not interrupted until your own Jarl and retinue return late that evening. And Katla will cook and clean and do anything that you ask of her, and try and ingratiate herself to you, that you'll let her share your chambers or sleep in the commons or ally herself towards you.
Yeah, purely for the fact that she is pregnant, I think, and Hringur will give up his room and sleep in the commons. He's not interested in anything else.
She tells you a couple of times at first that she can't accept, though eventually she does, and won't sleep rough for the first time in a week or so, and will just eat the food ravenously, voraciously, which you wouldn't expect from a woman so small as her, but so as she does. And you can see her good night, and then you find your own place by the hearth in the commons room. The next morning, it's the 15th day of snowfall, 791, year of the bloody rivers. The Sigrsblot and thing of Gulnjaford has ended. The festivity, the likes of which have not been seen in the north in a century, went on until the midnight, and in a stroke old grudges and wergilds were subsumed by the uncrowned king of the Iskloffin, and the wary, distrustful, feuding northern jarls have been united in rule and focus. In an instant, carls and thegns have been made jarls and then sworn to peace. There's a palpable excitement and confidence brimming in Gulnjaford this morning, which works to ease all but the staunchest of tensions. It's a hive of activity as lords and soldiers make their preparations and begin to slowly trickle out of the holdfast and back to their own new halls. traders eager to hawk the last of their wares, and craftsmen and lordless folk who seek to attach themselves to jarls of fortune abound in the bustle of the town, even at this early hour. Many a young Iskloffin lad with his first taste of the south weeps as they farewell the halls of Gulnjaford and make their way off towards a cold and perhaps lonely winter. The Oxhead is loud and bustling when you convene to break your fast on smoked herring, roasted radish, washed down with morning cider. Folk jostle about the long table that your party occupies as they queue for their own fare or go about other business. Colbine whistles in between nibbles of his radish. Folky Two-Teeth sucks on his herring as he does, and Canute happily accepts a cider from Dagfin, who urges Solcy next to him to make room for Orgla the maid. The riders who accompanied you and those you've found along the way seem in good enough spirits. Outside you can hear the sound of oxen, horses, carts, and traffic of many eager folk who wish to be home at hearth before the snows turn true. You're the last to make your way down, Blackhand, to the table, and you had that dream again last night, and there's a woozy, fuggy uneasiness about you that you can't shake, which you're certain's not the drink, though you imbibed many a toast. You're aware of your limits, and you did not push that threshold last night, though still feel worse the wear for it. And it takes some time after you've finished your fare and drink till your head finally feels cleared of the thing.
Yeah, he'll drink a lot of water this morning then, to see if that'll fix it. Well, he does have some, I guess, residual feelings of weirdness about last night. He'll like sit and begin eating, and he'll just like inform the people at the table that we want to get as many people as we can before we leave here. We need to bring as many warriors home as we can, as many people home as we can. So anyone who's scrabbling now for a place to go for the winter, if they look like they can hold a weapon, or at least look like they know it, or even if they can pretend to look like they know it, we need them.
Yeah, everyone has convened here, and into the silence that follows that, Knut the Wager and the other riders who'd come here will like nod their assent at that and kind of look around at each other, and so we will put the word out, Lord, and seek what we can find for you, and they'll like go to move away from their breakfasts and rise and disperse if that's your wish.
Yeah, I mean they can eat and finish their breakfast, but really we want to get people who are like about to leave and are not really sure if they found a place for winter and that kind of stuff. So yeah, Ingvar will basically pick up like a little bit of breakfast and take it with him, and then like wander outside with the intent of like finding groups of people who are standing around or people who are packing up and stuff, and trying to acquire any last minute sort of stragglers he can.
Okay, and what will you do after breakfast, Rake?
Is there anything that Ingvar is specifically looking for the rest of us to accomplish while we're here? 'Cause that would be the primary goal.
Much the same, just trying to like hire people and like get people, like anyone. Like even if someone looks like if they held a sword and they stared at a thrall, that the thrall would do what they were told, like that's enough. We just need people to like police our area and to discourage people from coming to get us because there's lots of people around, you know. So that's kind of want all hands on deck doing that, apart from like the thralls and stuff who would be like packing up our stuff and making ready to go as well.
And then and Thrymnir and Droplaug, what will you guys do?
Droplaug will follow Blackhand away till she finds some time. He's not giving orders and otherwise supervising for her to have a quiet word with him.
Mm-hmm. We can move along to that. And then Thrymnir?
He will follow Blackhand's orders. He'll set off at first with the other men, putting the word out, letting the wagerer especially do the talking for the most part, and then he's going to split off and look for himself, essentially.
Okay.
Actually, a quick whispered word to Colbine, the Skald. If he's able to put that silver tongue of his to work, seeing if there's any thralls with stoneworking knowledge. She's thinking about the Dauderstein. They may need to do some work there.
Of course, mistress. I could go amongst the craftsmen and artisans and try and seek that out, though it might require silver to loosen tongues and such, he says.
Well, hurry along and go with Anthrimnir. But vex him not, Colbine, or you'll be missing more than fingers.
To not vex the likes of him, mistress, then I'd best not speak, he says, like a joke. But then when you don't say anything, he realizes that that's what he has to do and nods.
And then looking over at the Black Hand, she'll look thoughtful for a moment. Something she's noticed in the past, and then words have found her ear, which make it very pressing for her to find a moment to speak with him. He's not busy.
Yeah, I think he's probably like put himself in a central location so that anyone who finds anyone can bring them quickly to Blackend, so he can like make the final call of like, yes, we'll take this person, or no, we won't. So he's probably standing in like the market square, like munching on an apple or something.
Yeah, Droplag will come up and looking at you with something more of a motherly look. She'll look into your eyes and tut a bit and say, "Are you resting well, Blackhand?"
He would go to lie and then realize that like the witch knows everything. Sort of shake his head. It's the dream again, the same dream.
I thought I smelt something of the sea about you again this morning. Tell me of these dreams. Again, have they changed at all?
It's the snow bears, the swimming, and they did change recently. After we took Dauderstein.
What of the Fane of Ran? Did you tell me all you accomplished there?
We killed those creatures that dwelt there. And we took what we could from the pool. But we should have burnt it if we did not.
Droplag will let out a hiss at this sound. Is it worse dreams you covet? Do not think you can use your favor of Odin to shield you from the wrath of all ancient powers. You have struck a wound against Ran. And she'll begin walking around you in a circle, perhaps reminiscent of those sea bears that swim in your dreams. And Ran is not forgiving. Does the music still play?
He'll nod.
For when it stops, she will take from you Ingvar Blackhand.
How can I appease her?
You know how it is done in the old ways. Until her hand stills upon the music. You have a chance to make sacrifice. I am thinking perhaps we should set up this place again. Set it right, a temple to run. And you should seek forgiveness. But you must find something of value to give to Ran. For it is not a sacrifice if it does not cut and bleed.
The things that live there, that killed some of our men. It was just justice. We had to kill them. Cleanse them from that place. They were not even people. They were something else. But you're right, I suppose. More fucking money to throw somewhere at a god, at a temple. He's obviously like rueful about the fact that like the more powerful you become, the less money you make. It seems you just spend it all the time.
It is not money she covets. No, these things do by grace of a kind. Ran's treasure is measured in blood. What else did you take from that island? What else did you steal from the mouth of Ran?
There were things in the pool that we took. A wand, the instrument, the Tibison, and a few other things that we took from that place.
But nothing that bleeds.
No. Oh, we can sacrifice an animal then. Oh, we did, didn't we? Yeah. Oh. Yeah, we rescued Ranulf.
Ranulf, is it?
We need him.
What would you offer Ran in exchange? This is difficult. For if he was promised, she yearns for him. You must make a sacrifice even greater. Even then she may not accept.
A horse?
The soul of a horse does not measure against that of a man.
We don't kill men in sacrifices.
Your hand is black with the blood of many men you have slain.
It's different.
Is it?
When you kill a man in a battle, he goes to corpse hole. But to tie him up and kill him in a blot, some sacrifice, it's not the same.
I think they used to kill people all the time, didn't they, in sacrifice?
I feel like in Iskloff they used to, but it's not so common.
Okay. Yeah.
Such were always the old ways.
I'm not sure, Nico. Would I know? Like, obviously, if you sacrifice someone in Ran, they go into Ran's halls, not to the corpse hall. But
Yep.
They used to hang people and stuff for.
Yeah, usually
The
thrall
overtrade.
or willing freeman.
Yeah, it's different, right? Because like if you're sacrificing someone, often it'll be the case that like they want to go, and it's like an honorary sort of thing, like a big ceremony is done, and you like get them pissed,
Yep.
and that kind of stuff.
But this is a hard
Perhaps.
spell.
I don't imagine anyone is going to want to go to the halls of Ran. You know?
No, this kind of ritual doesn't mean they get to go to their ancestors
Yeah.
and corpse hall.
Perhaps Ranulf would wish to go. Would that make it easier?
He laughs at that. No one wants to go and spend their time dancing in Ran's halls. We need Ranulf. What if we sacrifice some people we captured?
I can sing to Ran. I can offer to treat with her on your behalf, Blackhand. If you will give me the Fane of Ran, I shall see what I can do. But all is weighed against the life of Ranulf. I shall do what I can, but it may come to choosing between yourself and Ranulf.
I can't give you the Fane. It's not mine to give. It's in Maga's lands. Is that right, Nico? It's at the very southern tip of, yeah, so it's like I can't even offer it necessarily. Though I can speak with Maga. I'm sure that her seer will want something to do with that place.
You know from all the rumor, or you've heard all the rumors about Maga and her Ran worshipping.
Mm.
Edis is a Saith. There's that rumor that Maga gives her daughters to Ran. Whether that's true or not, who knows? But
Interesting. Okay, so she might be the one to talk to about doing a deal. If such things can be done.
yeah, you'd know like aggrieved Ran, like Ran when she's aggrieved or jealous about like offerings have been taken or things like that. That she expects a recompense tenfold, such as her greed. And she whinges on to Aegir about it, and then he reinforces it with storms.
Yeah.
To get what she is not otherwise offered, so she may take tenfold what was lifted with the power of Aegir, which is waves.
If you wish a calm harbour and pleasant sailing, Ingvar, I would suggest we make sacrifice soon. If not Ranulf, then it must cost much, much more.
I will think about what we might sacrifice. You might think about what is appropriate to sacrifice. We need Ranulf. He's the only one of us who can read. Or one of the only ones. I trust him now. But
as you wish.
Yeah. We'll have to think about it.
Oh, he's a free man too, okay. Still. Can be persuasive. Yeah, and Droplark would move off to prepare for. Are we moving out today, or are we going to leave tomorrow?
I think we'll go today. We'll probably spend like the morning rounding up people and then head off.
Okay. I was going to shift over to Rake, but when Jeff gets back, I'll just. Oh, sorry, Quentin, you keep going.
Just if there's any time, I think there's a priority to try and get skilled labourers as well. Particularly as this town's been taken reasonably recently, there might be some adrift craftsmen, like thralls, better thralls.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so you two can go to the thrall market. And as we leave you on your journey to that place, I'll switch over to Anthrimnir. So you've been with Knut the Wager and some of the other men who have gone out and just kind of accosting random folk about the place to try and get word out, or like hear word of folk that you may be able to sway into serving your lord over the winter. Knut is quite persuasive and earning his namesake, quite a judger of character or weighing risk. So has been shrewd with who he'll take on. There's like a small band of mainly youths and middle-aged men who've kind of thronged to his call. He's thrown a bit of silver about for them and impressed them with like talk and promise and hint of land in the west, in the headland of Braggi's Spear. Though not seemingly successful enough for he or any of the men, or indeed yourself, Enthrimnir, to turn back after the last couple of hours of the morning. You can hear an argument going on nearby the western gate that people are slowly like eking out of. There's like a large burly man with a shaved head and a cruel scar down his face, which gives him like the look of a man smiling constantly on the half of the side of his face. And he's grumbling at this triple assault of these three women. One is of an age of the man in her middle years, the other two are younger. They're all berating him with equal ferocity, like the ferocity of wives. You expect us to live out in the woods with the snow 3 feet deep? Ah, 'tis southern snow, woman. Be not worried about it. I'll hear no more of your grumbling. No, but you'll hear ours. Last time you made me sleep on a bed of needles, I had sticks in my ass. I'll not do it again. Oh, you will. You will do it again if I say so. Be quiet now, woman. Curse you, Yadvar, she says. This is not what we agreed to. And the women kind of, in a semi-synchronized fashion, cross their arms and cast venomous glances at him while he cinches at the straps of like some saddlebags at a mule and like swears to himself, cursing his luck. Trouble, I'd wager, says Knut, thumbing towards them and like gestures that the other men should follow him further on down the path into the city or the town.
Trouble is what he seems to have got himself into. He looks like trouble too, doesn't he?
Solsi sucks on his last two teeth and gives the man an appraising look as the others begin like moving on with the chink of arms either side of you, following on Knut. He does it that. A hard man. He'll like point to like the meaty hands that the man's using to cinch the girth, and the cruel wound on his face doesn't look like from birth or accident. It looks like a war wound. Though he's vulnerable to combined psychic damage of his three partners there, it seems. Like he dwarfs all three of them combined, but is like weathering the lash of their triple tongue. One woman is hard enough, says Solsi, as if he knows anything. And even that's too much for the likes of me, he says, a man who's scorned by women because of his ugly visage and two teeth, and he'll shake his head at the matter, not wanting any part of it.
You go on ahead. I'll catch up.
He sucks on his teeth and shrugs, and that's enough from Solsi, and he'll fall in with the rest as they move off.
Yeah, I'll start walking towards this man and kind of stand off to the side, the arms crossed, continuing to watch the theatre of this berating with a slight smirk on my face at some of the, I'm sure, colourful language being thrown here.
You're the son of a snake, Yadvar. I never should have married you. She's right, says another one, backing up. I'm just not going. And she puts her foot down into the mud and ice, and he throws up his arms. And then sees that there's a guest approaching. So, well, not a guest, but like a stranger, and so doesn't continue his swearing oath.
Well, my friends, you seem to have some disagreement here.
And then some, he says, turning away from the mule, which just stands there like a stone to like look back at the women. One of them is eyeing him angrily. The other has turned her face away in disgust, and the other is showing him her back with her arms folded and her heels firmly in the muck. True enough, stranger. Yadvar, he like puts forward like a ham haunch hand.
And from there, where is it you head to, Yadfor?
The wilds. I'm a keen woodsman. I grew up there, back home, and he like gestures off instinctively, like towards, like loosely towards the north. And the women, like the one who's turned her back to him, they all kind of look to him at that as like varying degrees of belief in his ability to sustain the four of them out in the wild.
Woodsman, eh?
I spent hard times with my uncle in the north. Came south years back with the flame sower. Earned some silver wealth, earned these harpies. He points his thumb over to his back, and that earns him like further scorn and berailment from them. And earned me this on the walls of Gulnjaford, and he points, turning his head towards you, and shows you how he earns his nickname, Yadvor the Smiling.
Why the wilds? I mean, it seems to not sit well with your brides. Surely someplace warm would suit them better. Perhaps save you a headache.
He just gestures to the axe in your belt. Put that to use, friend, and spare me. Ha ha ha! And he gives like a laughter, billowing with reeking breath. And they're not my brides, not by the new ways anyway. We're wives enough, says one of the women, and the other two like nod in assent to that. Thralls, freed them to marry. Worst mistake of my life. But have not found a seer or saith who'll marry three to a man. So they're brides by my own law. Yadvor's law, he like puts his arms on his chest like that, as if he's just like a big man to himself. And then the three women just shoot him. Poisonous looks at that. Despite this, none of them have walked away, so there's obviously some bond between them, even despite how they act at him.
Well, I can't promise you a Sivkona that will marry three beautiful women such as these.
Where, he said, putting his hand up to ward off the non-existent sun, and looks around the town in mock, and one of the women goes up to like slap him on the shoulder.
Although I could potentially find somewhere warm for them to sleep if you're looking for a place to winter.
He says in that kind of northern way of like, even if they like the sound of something, automatically acting like, oh, maybe kind of thing. But one of the women like steps forward. Oh, warm lord. Oh, you would treat us like queens compared to the likes of Yadvor. And then the other two quickly nod in assent to that. Quiet your bemoanment, woman. Oh. And he shakes his head apologetic towards you and thumbs towards them. The crone, Alof, the maiden, Bolla, and the midden, Thorgerd. And like the middle-aged woman like nods at that towards you as you're introduced to the three wives of Yadvor. And yes, we would like somewhere warm for the winter, says one of the women indignantly. Silence, woman. He does not need to hear your pleading. I'm sorry, lord.
Well, I'm sure you'll hear enough of it yourself, but what about you? You don't strike me as a man that would go off into the wilderness and use his axe just to fell trees and chase after rabbits.
Trees don't bite back, he says, thumbing the scar on his face. And rabbits are too nimble for me. Not for me, says Bolla.
So no more fight left on an old bear like you?
Oh, there's still some. I'll have to, or the harpies will overwhelm me. And all three of them go forward to slap him at that.
Well, I'll give you something to consider. You've heard of Jarl Ingvar, the Black Hand?
I think I've heard talk from out the west. I don't know the man. He your lord?
Aye, good man.
A good man in West Asblot now. I thought we'd killed them all.
I'll concede to that point. Nonetheless, he's looking for warriors. promising
Well-
a place, food, drink, shelter, a place amongst battle brothers.
When you say food, drink, shelter, it's kind of like a ding, ding, ding for the three women's kind of demeanor, kind of like leaning eagerly over each other's shoulder at that, and then looking to him with a pressure. I would have to think about it. An oath swearing to a new lord is no easy thing. The last one I swore to found it fit to run into 2 arrows below the walls of Gulnjaford.
That's why you need a lord who sends other people to run into arrows.
Don't like that kind much either. How big is his hall? He says, obviously intrigued. Bigger than yours, mumbles one of the women.
You've heard of the giant's ruins to the south?
And covered in ghosts and seagull shit they are. Are we expected to live there? And he turns back to the girth at the mule to cinch it further, and like the mule looks like it'll pop if he does that.
Jarl Uthil cleared out the ghosts, took it as his own. A second
He
settlement
stops
for
at that,
him.
and his meaty hand goes up around his throat, clutching the amulet of Thor there of Mjolnir, and he turns to you. Truly, obviously a superstitious man.
Truly, a place cursed, now ridden of such a thing.
He must be mighty. Will he be mighty enough to accept the enemy into his hall? And he thumbs at the three women.
Depends. Can any of them cook?
Do you need anyone poisoned? And Bolla will go and slap him again at that. We can cook, Lord. Better than Yadvor ever has.
Oh, I believe that. He looks to me like a man who could live on a diet of rocks.
Unfortunately not, Lord, says the skinniest of the women. My grandfather was begotten of Odin, and he has a god's hunger. He passed it down to me. Nothing wrong with that, he says.
Well, Jarl Uthil is favoured by Odin.
Indeed, he says, at that and looks serious again.
Ask around. There are those with the tales. You'll hear them from others, not from me. That way you know there is no bias. We are leaving today. You're welcome to join us.
Say yes, says one of the women. Do it, Yadvor. And the other one kind of taps her foot into the muck at him, and he says, very well. I'll ask about. If I hear something good of him, I'll come find you. Maybe I'll take you up on that offer, he says, trying to disguise the obvious appeal that you laid before him and his wives.
I think I will see you later.
You may well, Andrimnir, son of Agi. Now, if you'll leave me. And he looks back and makes a mock look of fear at them. Until I bid the women, and they'll disperse from him and go to begin hurriedly asking people for any word of Blackhand. And before long, one of them will come back, berating him about it. He owns half the bloody headland of Braggi. Spear, you dolt! You should have grovelled before that lord. Oh, I'm not sure he was a lord. I think he was just a warrior. And then you hear all that kind of thing going on as you walk away, and Thrymnir, seeds well and truly planted. And you can use the intervening time to. You said that you wanted to go off by yourself. Did you want to do anything in particular there, or you just wanted to be to find solace for a time?
No, I'm going to wind back up the alleys and through the muck back to that house where Caitlin was.
Cool. All right. I'll come back to that as you're on your way to that hovel. Rake, you've headed out close to like the center, like ring or keep of Gulnjaford, to where many of like the warriors of note were housed. The majority of these men, just by their skill, luck, and favor so far, have already like allied themselves with Lord or found halls to winter in. So already you get the sense that pickings are slim, but being a man of confidence and charisma, and with no small amount of word skill, you can begin or commence to asking around and finding directions to people of note or worth who may be able to be called into service or be offered the appeal of a warm hall through the long cold winter to come. And inside of the inner walls of Gulnjaford, where just last night you feasted amongst other notables, there are like camps of armed men moving about, dissembling lean-tos, or some are like sharpening weapons or preparing to like put on arms for marching, and that kind of activity going on about you. And one of the small folk who's carrying a bunch of like oaken hafts from like one shop to another, when you stop him and ask him about mercenaries, he will point down one like muddy corridor where you can see most of the tents and lean-tos have been pulled away, and there's already skeletons of a camp there now. There are still some men down there, Lord, bright men, fearsome folk, warriors. I saw no banners there, Lord. And then he'll like go to move away, and one of the hafts will drop out into the mud, and he'll quickly like pick it up and spill a couple of others, and eventually get hold of his load and shuffle off back to his own master, to leave you eyeing down the thoroughfare, Rake, where you can see a few like scant collection of men moseying about here.
Yeah, Rake will nod in thanks to the man as he provides him with the information that he needs. And then with like his own full shining gear on display, acting as like a beacon of whatever note that it can provide. He'll walk over towards the group of men to see, once he's actually out there and can see the group themselves, to take stock of what they look like, what shape they seem to be in, and so on.
They're obviously southerners. You can tell as you approach. There's like a large framed man who looks like he's gone sallow, who's cooking something in an upturned helm. And he'll look from your approach towards another man and kind of make a small, subtle like noise, like for the man to like look. And he follows the gaze of the bigger man towards you. The younger man, who was made aware of your approach, has red shoulder-length hair. It's quite bright, and there's only a few little strands of silver in it. His bright green eyes and clasps of iron in his beard braids. And he wears ringmail, which looks in poor condition. The rest of these southerners look in pretty poor condition too. But being an experienced older man, you can tell that they have a hard, well-weathered look to them, and not taking them just by the measure of like what their arms and armor are. You can tell they're hard folk, even if they don't look the part. And the man who the others kind of by their body language or facial expressions kind of defer to, who you take must be their leader, and says, "Oh, you're welcome to our fine hall and fare, stranger, if it is your wish. I see you are a southerner and a runewise. Come, you are welcome." And at the talk, you see the flash from his teeth of gold canines.
Thank you for the hospitality. It's much appreciated, though I won't take up too much of your time nor your resources. Though I will take up some of your ears if you'll have it for a second.
Of course, who would we be to be shy of the wisdom of a runewise? We'll hear your counsel if you've to speak to us. You lot! And he'll give a whistle between his gold teeth, and the men will come to kind of an attention at that, and he'll look at you with a bit more respect. He sees he's a man who doesn't like yell or swear or impose himself on his men, but seems to have strong command over them, even given their state. I am Gunner, called Goldtooth, and these what left of my crew. And you'll have their ears if you wish it. And he waits for you to put your name into the space he leaves.
Rake Snorrison, a Galderman, in service to Jarl Ingvar Blackhand, as it were.
I confess I know him not, but I can see by your raiments that he is a gift giver and a ring breaker. We will listen, Rake, son of Snorri.
As he's good to those who do good by him and for him, as all good jarls do. I see no banners displayed, no signifiers on your clothing, your gear. Do you have service to anybody here?
He shakes his head. Our sigils were stripped, Lord, in the east, some months ago. From then, we've found work and some silver hoard in the pay of the flame sower. We fought at Gulnjaford. He gestures to the walls around him, and we're all that's left and buried.
By what cause and reason were your sigils taken? Failure of your own, or by circumstance?
Ugh. By many things, Lord. The weft of the Norn's skein, by Loki's cruel luck, by shrewd cunning of the enemy, by my own underestimation. All these things and probably more that me, a mere mortal, is not equipped well enough to know, but small to say, Lord, defeated by the enemy. We were given our lives, my own nephew given over to our defeater. We wandered into the west and away from the wrath of East Asblot.
Okay, Rick will just kind of nod at that. Yes. Defeat may come in many forms and through many causes. Um, he's gonna try to get an eye, if I can, if you need an insider, if he could just, or if he'd be able to tell. I want to see if, like, how much of this guy's story, if it seems like, if I get the sense that he is genuinely kind of at the fault of circumstance, or if he's like deserving of the defeat that he suffered. Just
You
kind
can
of
roll an
trying to
insight to
his
gauge the
here.
manner of the man.
That's pretty good. That is going to be a 23.
You get the sense that he's like half snake, this guy, but he's not lying. Like the words that he says seem to be true. Either that or like his men are like well rehearsed enough to make it seem so convincing. But yeah, it seems like he was half owning up to his own faults as well as circumstance, which led to the defeat of he and his men. But it would be quick to like add into your discernment that if it were not for his own wisdom, then all of his men would have been dead. And most of them kind of agree to what they've obviously heard many times before, reiterated by this gold tooth. But he doesn't seem like inconfident, maybe like incompetent, I should say, but maybe like overconfident or brash, or like judging his own capacity beyond what it actually is.
Yeah, Rake will kind of just stand unmoving as he kind of tries to see the truth of this man's manner. But then after a moment of kind of this like eerie silent stillness, just kind of like staring into him, Rake will take a step back and kind of survey the whole group of them gathered here. I will not take your time unnecessarily. My Jarl, a Black Hand, he's looking for men of skill, men of anything. We've taken up new holdings, and we need people to assist, or at least their assistance would go well used. I'll kind of motion to the armband that Ingvar gave him, along with the other arraignments that he has. He pays well if you do good work. He's a good man, as good as any Jarl can be. Now tell me, do any of you have any skills? Battle skill, building skill, trade skill? What use do you have? What skill can you provide? If so,
We're
we might have
gunlanders.
use to speak.
We're gunlanders, sir, says Goldtooth. So we are warriors. We are sailors and warriors. We do not till or lumber or thatch. We are warriors for hire. And though free men, not free men looking for a northern lord to serve, we're of our own ends and wish to find our homes back in Gunland, if the fates are kind, but we'll need coin enough for that. If your lord is truly a ring breaker and a gift giver, and we could pledge our service to him in our art, and he gestures to the sword at his side.
You, Drake will point to any, just whoever the closest person that isn't this speaking leader.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, you're a leader here, and I'll point to Gunnar. What great feats has he done in battle? What rousing speeches has he given? What men has he slain? Tell me, what reason do we have to trust his sword or his words?
He's never fled from the fight we've been in, Lord. He's led us
How
all.
many battles?
3, Lord. 2 since the bloody beach at Grivnik. And pulled us through, and never ran himself. He's fair, and gives us our share when it's due, and weathers our hardships with us, Lord. A good man to swear an oath to, and like all Gunlanders, a man of his word.
Drake will nod at that, and then draw his eyes back towards the leader. Well, if it's coin you seek, freedom, returning to your land, you'll need good pay for it, and better pay than, and he'll kind of just gesture down to the meager camp that they have here. This, if you'll speak with the Jarl, I'm sure an arrangement can be made. Your swords for his coin, and then perhaps someday. And he'll like again make sure to like gesture, like try to make it seem as like subconscious as he can. But it'll probably be still obvious that he'll like point out to like the armbands and the shining equipment that he's been given from the Jarl, signaling like the generosity. If you do well, you'll be paid well for it.
Where is this, Lord? We would speak to him. It's getting cold out here, Lord, says Goldtooth.
I'll bring you to him. I'll make an arrangement. He'll see you.
He nods at that and turns to his men and gives like a shake of his head, and they move at once to begin dissembling their camp and getting themselves ready to follow him to the Oxhead.
With that, Rake will go to find either Ingvar or somebody who can send for him. How many people are under this guy's service?
9. That's all that's left. Him and 9 warriors out of 42.
10 is still a fine enough number. That would be good
Yep.
to bring in.
And they all have like weapons and armor, even though it's in poor repair. But like it's in poor repair because they've been using it for the last 4 months.
Yeah, and Rake will kind of taking note of that, look back and say, and if an arrangement's made between you and we're to be in business and in service, I'll kind of like smack on his shield with his free hand. I am more than a rune man, also a smith. Perhaps your gear can be tended to, brought back into shape. See it shine with the luster that a warrior of Ingvar's should carry.
We'd be thankful for it. You're blessed by Boulder, a smith as well as a runeman. We do shame to our homeland that our weapons do not shine with the sun, and that our mail is not polished to a silver. But All-Father has given us hard times to make us strong for what must come. If it's amiable, I'd thank you for it, Rake. He'll like, thumb a hole in his chainmail where he's obviously been shot or hacked at.
Hard times make us strong, and that strength brings good times and wealth. You'll be better for it. Odin will see it so. He watches us, and he will watch you if you join us.
He'll nod. He's obviously like piqued. His interest is piqued in this, and it won't be long before him and his men can assemble and like with all of their panoply, make their way towards the Oxhead as you've directed. And you can find one of the crew of the Seo Hester loitering nearby, and who will tell you that your own Jarl has made his way towards the thrall market, and you can quickly find your way there to reconvene with him.
Yeah, he'll do so. And he'll, of course, make sure that a message is passed to these Gunlanders that the Jarl and himself will be on the way shortly, and a deal can be struck, and then go to seek him out.
Cool. So Ingvar and Droplaug, you guys have come to the thrall market, and you within shouting distance of this older man. He's got gnarled shoulders. He's missing all of the fingers on one of his hands, and in the other he has a lash, and he's whipping and barking orders at people. And even warriors who are like better armed and in better health than him seem like fearful of him. And someone, if you were to ask, would inform you that's Bold Sigvor, and he's one of Uthil's warriors who's been maimed in battle and now been given the task of selling the last of Uthil's personal stock of thralls that he wants ejected from Gulnjaford for the months to come. So the 200 of people who stand before you, Ingvar and Droplaug, are old men, old women, and young boys, and only a few young girls. They're a dirty, grubby lot, and many of them are ill-equipped for the cold nights that they've obviously been penned in here, though at least mercifully enough they were kept on the inside, not the outside of the walls. So the Bold Sigvor tells you they must be in a decent enough health, as only a few have died in the last couple of nights. The prices that he's selling them for are cheaper than any of the thrall prices you've inquired into in the last 2 days, but it's obviously why they're mouths to feed of either few years to come or like few years under their belt to acquire skill. But they are people. And Bold Sigvor, after like barking out the same repetitive thralls, cheap thralls, 10 hack silver for a pair, and things of that nature. He notes your approach, sees your war garb and gear, Ingvar, and then notes the finery of your Velva, and will put his lash down nearby, like a table nearby, to a bunch of the pens, and instinctively wipe it on his even grimier vest as he like step his way towards you. Looking to buy, Lord?
Well, I was looking to buy useful thralls, and he'll like look at the state of the like assembled lot.
Oh, you could have these ones here laid down in a fallow field, and they'll feed your crops, Lord. Or these other ones, good bait for fish.
It's probably all they're useful for.
That's why they're cheap, Lord. Flamesower wants them gone from Gulnjaford. Soon they'll be given away for free, but till then, I'll need coin for them.
How much coin?
10 silver a pair for the elderly, 30 silver a pair for the children.
And there's what, 40 of them here?
Yep.
And is it like 20 old people and 20 kids?
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah.
If you'll take the lot off my hand, lords, I'll give you a discount.
Ingvar will kind of turn quietly towards Droplaug. Ran wants to be repaid tenfold. And he'll shrug.
Such is her price. We're able to approach the thralls, like it wouldn't be she'll begin looking amongst the elderly at their hands, like the old men. She's looking for any hands that would denote like a craftsman.
I don't think there'd be any like craftsmen here because they would have been like slimmed and filtered already up to this point. So, but obviously all their hands have been gnarled and calloused and grimy. They've been mucking dirt here in Asblot for the last 50, 60 years. So although they may not be like what you'd think of as skilled craftsmen or artisans, obviously people who are able to make a fire from wet wood, thatch a hovel, dig latrine pits, all of that kind of stuff. Yep.
Okay,
Skilled
so
in a
just
sense that we current mortals would be outclassed by.
But none of the specific marks left by a life of using the hammer and chisel.
No, to be
that's
honest, I
fine
think
too.
anyone like that would have been plucked from the bunch already for further profits, like earlier.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's go back to Ingvar's side. Is there any sign of disease or sickness or anything?
Not as in like plague or anything like that, but definitely there'd be like children who would be like sniffling and sickly, and some older people who like might be shaking or their breaths wheezing or rattling, but more because of just like harsh conditions and treatment than like plague or any like virus or something like that.
I do not know how many would survive the journey back to Halagaska. Perhaps this should weigh upon price.
Ingvar's like looking and he's thinking like this might be a way to appease Ran. We can sacrifice the old people, and we can like give the kids and start training them in various skills or whatever to our skilled thralls, like an investment for down the road.
That's a good idea.
So he's thinking about it. But he's trying to put on this like attitude of like, oh, what a waste this would be. Like these are really pathetic slaves, and it's really not worth his hassle. So he's kind of like, he like looks and he looks at some of the other sort of stalls and stuff around, and then back here, you're not going to sell them today if it's not me, hey?
Who knows? He says with not too much hope. But I've been ordered to, and I never refuse the flame sower.
Well, that's wise.
I learnt the hard way. He holds up his gnarled stump of a hand with no fingers on it.
Well, 600 for the lot. I'll take them right now.
600 will leave me little cream to skim from the top for the first months of winter. And he kind of sucks in his teeth, moving his head from side to side in that appraising, bartering manner.
Well, that's a shame. I don't need them so bad.
20 silver could see a winter fur for my woman, and some herb and spice for my food come the hard months.
Expensive taste your woman has she? Fur cloaks and things.
Oh, she deserves it. She is a beauty. He reveals a bunch of like brown teeth, and you imagine she's probably some thrall freed and then bound into wifedom with this wretched, gross warrior come slave master.
Yep. 620 then.
I could take that to the Lord. And by that he means he could take 600 to the Lord.
Yeah.
He'll
All right.
put out his good hand, which is gross, which is still a bad hand, but he'll put it out and to shake your own.
Yeah, I'll shake it, and I'll have the whatever. Get the thralls to bring the necessary money, and then bring these wretched people with us.
Gross and grim. Yeah, Dagfin can be put in charge of the moneying and leading of the thralls back to their camp and things of that nature, to leave you free of that task once it's negotiated with the men to seek other people here in Gulnjaford, which is now like mid-morning, a hive of activity as people are purchasing last things they need before like heading out the gates and onto the roads to their various holdfasts for the winter to come. You can see as you're leaving the thrall market, there's a group of men who have like a brutal, cruel look to themselves. They're not garbed in like fine chain, nor do they have swords, but you can tell that they're warriors who have seen proper campaigning, and they have the look like of hard, sun-touched men. You suspect that they may have been with like Uthil's horde for a time leading up to the siege of Gulnjaford. One of them has a patch over his eye in kind of like a band that wraps around towards the back of his head, and his hair is cropped close, and in the middle is bald, even though he appears to be of an age of you, maybe a couple of years older, though he looks well worn for that. And the other guys with him are of a similar age. They have a look of like opportunistic middle-aged men to them, and they're looking appraisingly amongst the thralls as they move through. You hear one of them remark, "No fitting women here. You've pissed in our ears again, Heleni. We should have been quicker, gents. We should have been quicker." And he's looking up and about. "Just old hags and children now. Though I won't hear you complaining about that, dearie." And the other man just gives like a gross, cruel smile, which earns like putrid laughter from the other men. "You promised us women. Oh, and there's women here. Take your look," says Heleni. But the other men kind of look a bit perturbed at that. "Is this what we waded through stakes, blood, and shit for? That we're to fuck a thrall and have nowhere to keep for the winter? Oh, a fine job you've done us. Your reputation is more hindrance than help, Sven." And the man who hasn't spoken so far yet just shrugs at that and then points over to a thrall pen where there's a woman cradling a child, where another child clings to her skirts. "What about that one?" And a couple of the men, like eagerly, like vultures, begin to approach that pen, and the shouting thrall master will like silence and similar to the one that you'd engage with Blackhand, will move towards these crude-looking men.
Yeah, I'll follow and stand sort of near, but won't interrupt. I want to see like how this negotiation goes. You don't have to like do it all out, but I'm just basically trying to see if these guys are like going to try and like swindle this guy, this like troll master, if they're going to be shitty about it, or if they. I want to hear like if they have nowhere to go, because they said that already, but I just want to make sure that that's the case.
Yeah, it's kind of like a bunch of jackals around a bigger dog, because like the way they yip and all interject and carry on, like haranguing and almost like jibing at the slave master. It's disorganized and chaotic, and not how you probably run your own negotiations like this. The man who they call Sven the Cursed is silent while the others all like harangue and yip and barter, and it's obvious they're trying to purchase female thralls for themselves, to the point where one of the men will even say, "We'll pay you a small fee for the thrall and then bring them back. Then you can sell them on, and your master need be the wiser." But the man doesn't look interested in that kind of deal, and the men half kind of use intimidating tactics to him before he's forced into raising his voice so that some of Uthil's guards nearby are at least aware of it. And at that, these jackals kind of bide down a little bit from that, and the one they call Sven the Cursed Sven the Cruel will like step forward towards the slave master, and in like a lower but kind of similarly imposing kind of voice barter out from a very low stake point, the acquisition of two female thralls who overhear what's happening and begin to like wail and lament their fate as this half a dozen cruel-looking warriors look set to purchase them for ill, grisly intent.
Can I hear what the offer is that he makes?
Yeah, he's trying to like pay the same kind of price as you did for the thrall children you purchased, but the thrall master is saying, "No, this is an adult woman, like skilled in the ways of the house, and can be used to like put to all manner of like task to earn coin, and so he cannot part for them for any less than 120 hack silver each." And the women are obviously fervently praying that these men cannot like put that coin together between them. It seems they can't, or they won't, because either way, this man, the Cursed, and his other dogs are trying to barter the slave catcher down, and now it stands at 200. But the slave master is unwilling to relent.
I'll pay 120 for each.
Sven will like turn to face you, and the man with like one eye and the band across his face as well, and slowly all the men's faces will turn. "Sold, Lord," he says, glad to be ended of the bartering and to have the price in one go of what he'd asked for these women, which is not extortionate.
No.
It's a decent price. And he'll like move past Sven and his cruel-looking dogs towards you, and it earns a baleful glare from a few of them, though Sven the Cruel just looks at you appraisingly, as if wondering why you'd done that and waiting what's forthcoming.
Yeah, he'll pay the money and like shake the guy's hand and see the women like taken to the rest of the thralls. We're gathering like quite an amount of them here. And then he'll like sort of just like fold his arms and look at the men and wait to see if any of them will say anything.
"They were to be our women, Lord. You've undercut us. We were here first."
Over.
It's Sven at one of the men. "Apologies, Lord. You're welcome to them."
gracious of you to say that I'm welcome to what I pay for. I paid the correct price, and that's why I got it. Are you in the habit of bullying merchants?
In the habit of doing as we please.
And that seems to be going well for you.
The smiles or like cruel, like smirks drip away at that, and a few of the men even are so bold to look at Sven, as in, see, this is what our debauchery has brought us. Lordless at the cusp of winter, lowered to using the last of our scraped silver to buy thrall prostitutes.
I need men for the winter, but I think you, and he'll point at Sven, you have this reputation for being a shit.
He bristles at that and goes to like take a step forward, but remembers Uthil's law.
And I think that if I take you to my hall, that you'll cause some trouble, that you'll rape a woman that you're not allowed to, that you'll kill some man in a fight because you think you're a big man, and I really can't afford to have that.
He tries to look like to give nothing away from his face, though cannot wholly master, and you can see that you've hit close to an inner nerve for more than a few of these men, to for want of a better word.
I think it's you that's the problem. And he'll like point again at Sven. The rest of you boys, you'll do as you're told, won't you?
I'm their laugh lord. And he like says that to you and then turns his head for them as well. We haven't had loaves for 3 days, Lord, says one of the men, and he'll turn to that looking like he's about to buffet him in the street.
You don't get the name the Cruel by being dependable. You get it by being a bastard and causing problems everywhere that you go. Reputation is everything, and though you have reputation, you have the wrong kind.
Who are you to come here and say this? These are my men. My name brings fear to men who would face me.
All right. He'll put his hands out wide. If you say so. But what I'm saying to you is that currently you have nowhere to go, and even merchants won't sell to you. And so I think that your reputation has gone in the wrong direction.
Methinks the fear you have will not purchase you thralls, as neither will your lack of coin. Half-lord, half-lord.
I may not have as much coin as you, Lord, he says the word like it's phlegm to be spat out. But I'll not weather your insults. I'll stand in the square if you insult me again, law or not.
I'm not looking to fight you, Sven. What I am looking for is men from my hall who can be counted upon and who can look after the place, and who, when I tell them not to do a thing, won't do it. And I think that these men behind you are inclined to do that because they look hungry and they look desperate. But I think you have too much pride in you and too much vanity to accept hospitality and accept to do what you're told. I think that if I tell you not to do a thing, you'll do it despite me.
Again, I do as I plead, Lord.
Droplag will lean in, keeping her bright eyes on this man before Ingvar. She'll whisper in his ear, I can bind him with oaths, my lord.
We cannot have the square here. There's to be no fighting amongst those who serve Uthil. And so we can't fight. Not the day after it's been said. Certainly not here in full view of all of these people. Seems like a bad idea to me. This is exactly what I'm talking about, Sven. This is the kind of behavior and the hot-headedness that will get you killed. You strike me as the kind of man who would strike me now without even making the square. Kind of bully, someone who will just do as he pleases because it thinks it makes him a big man, when really it just makes you a small man.
He steps in close, his nostrils flaring, and he puts his hand to the haft of his axe. "Don't be a fool, Sven," says one of the men.
Ingvar will smile. You don't want to do that, Sven. There are much bigger men in this place than you. Many of them are jarls. You want to be careful where you make threats.
"Hear this threat, then, Black Hand. When the Flamesower's peace is done, I'll come again to see if you're so eager to hurl insults. We may not find your tongue so quick then."
No, I think by then you'll find your tongue far up my arse, begging for a bit of food.
He flinches and pulls the axe haft free.
Well, you boys, he'll point basically around him. If you want a place to come for the winter, and you think you can do as I tell you, and you won't disobey me, you think you can keep your cocks hidden away, then you can have a place for winter. But this piece of weasel shit is not coming into my hole. So it's your decision.
He's standing there with this impotent rage, hand tightening around the wood, and one of his men shocks him by asking, "And we'll have loaves and women, Lord?" And he turns to the man aghast.
I think Droplaug begins to whisper under her breath, and I'd like to cast a spell if I can. I don't know how blatant it would be, but I wanted to devour thought. I'll copy and paste it in chat. So my intent is to seek out what is the source of this man's self-confidence, perhaps some grievous, cruel act perpetrated in the past, and devour that thought from him, leaving him broken and empty.
This guy.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, so what do you have to do on your half?
I guess it's a wisdom save. So I get a +1 from my wand, which I think the trick is for her to cast this spell without it being some massive show. So
He got a 5. So yeah, he's not even aware of it as it happens. His mind is just open, so focused on Ingvar.
So I think I see him grabbing his axe and moving towards some desperate act to reclaim his pride, and following that back thread by thread to the act where his act of cruelty, his butchery in a raid perhaps, where he laid waste to many thralls and earned his name, the Cruel. And
then all the way back to when he was a child. And you can see flashes of a man who looks like him but older beating him and worse. And in his childlike hands, Sven the Curse plying out his torment on helpless animals at first, and then making his way up the rung of devious and evil behavior, and pain and torment twisting into the cruel display of power that he exerts over the meek in his twisted adult life. And you can begin to rip these memories and motivations and grievances and inner secrets from him, such that he begins to just wither and shake and loses his grip upon the axe, looking like a man gut punched in front of those of his former dominion.
Yeah, so leaving him there faltering, perhaps leaving Ingvar an opening to steal away his men and cut him adrift. So that'd be 8 points psychic damage. And yeah, leaving him only those memories of abuse before that catalyzing moment when he inherited that mantle as abuser.
Yeah, Ingvar will look past him and around him at the men and say, yeah, you'll have loaves. Can't guarantee you women, but if you behave yourselves and you can charm them, then certainly.
Oh, we are right, charmers, lord, says one of the men. And hungry too, says another. We'll swear. And he's like aghast at this, but he's just too bereft from the sorcery of the Velva to respond, as 8 of his retinue will peel away from the few who are like most loyal and like as twisted as their leader is to kind of console him as best they can. And 8 of them will move away as like physical act of severance from the previous man. Your force of confidence and personality and the magic of the Velva is makes them, they're not proof against you, and they'll eagerly drink up your promises of coin and hearth and the fineries of Halagaska for the winter to come, and they'll listen intently and all kind of swear unofficially to assent to that very thing, and they'll leave the 2 men flanking a shaking, withered Sven in their wake to like fall in with you as you make your way out of the thrall market.
Yeah, he'll take a moment to like look back at Sven and the other 2 men so they can remember his face, because he's sure they're going to come back. So sometime in the future, but that's to be expected. So he'll like give them a brief look as he like herds out like 40 something slaves out of the thrall market, feeling like a pretty big wig at the moment.
Yeah, there is like a nemesis left behind you in the shaking, impotent, quavering, tormented Sven the Cruel. You can take a last look at him and fall out with your newfound throng. As you're leaving the thrall market, you'd run into Rake and his throng.
Ah, Jarl. Just the one I was looking for. I found some men that may intrigue you.
Oh, yes?
Warriors, or at least they call themselves that and seem it. Gunlanders, 10 of them. We're members of a larger group, 40 or so, but they're the ones who live. The men speak fondly of the leader. Their gear seems worn, not through miscare, but through use. They want to earn some coin, find some time in the future to make it back to their homeland, but they're willing to fight until then. I've told them that they could speak with you to see if they or you are interested.
Certainly, I'll meet them.
Gunner, Lord. The men call me Goldtooth.
Ingvar, the men call me Blackhand, but most of them call me Jarl.
These are the crew of the Sea Wolf. Good men all, and strong in the shield wall. We've lost good brothers. Oh, a few of us at least want to see the east. Your man tells us you'll give us gold for good work. We can offer that. We'll not swear to you forever, but for as many spans as you'll pay till we've enough to go east, we'll fight for you, Lord.
Ah, you're mercenaries. That's tricky.
We are, Lord.
I don't usually pay men to feed them and to sit in my hall and guard my place. Usually,
I suspect you don't want Gunland mercenaries to protect your place, Lord.
we want men, as many men as we can get. I have become lord of a very large expanse, so I'm looking for as many warriors as I can find. You have a ship?
You've struck a brutal nerve there. It's obvious that the answer is no.
Ah.
That previously would have been yes. He won't speak it, but you know it already.
Ah, apologies. You said the Sea Wolf, I assumed. Well, so that's what you want. A ship.
We want gold enough to see home again. Well, they do. I have a nephew in bondage to Asblot the Lord. I would see him brought back to liberty.
Well, I can't pay you, but I can give you a home for the winter. and for as many spans as you would like, and you will earn money in my service. You can ask the others who have fought with me. We've made a lot of money in a very short amount of time, and I plan to make a lot of money this winter. We can't raid here. We are going to raid somewhere.
He nods at that.
If that's the case, you and your men are welcome to come with me. I will need many for the place that we're going, especially warriors with experience who've been in the shield wall more than once.
So you would pay us a share, Lord, and not hack.
That's right, a share, as if you were on the crew.
He nods and will look back to his men and you, asking but not saying the words of "give me a moment" with the men.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll go off and conspire with them, leaving you with your allies, Droplaug and Rake.
As he's like waiting, Ingvar will say to Rake, "We made an enemy, but it was so glorious. You should have been there."
Hopefully not too strong of one. He'll laugh.
No, he looked fit to piss himself. Ingvar doesn't know there was sorcery involved, so he thinks he made this man like break down with how,
Yeah.
you know. So he's
So does anyone who witnessed it.
yeah, yep.
If words were enough to take him down, then I think that we do not need to be too worried.
I often find that the man who wants to fight you is the man who cannot defeat you. Too mouthy, not enough action.
Oh, Lord.
They
It
are
sounds
desperate.
well enough. Also, you go.
I was going to say, they're desperate for validation. They can't find it through their skill, so they find it from their mouth. That's all that they will get, is words. A foolish man who earns a foolish prize.
Lord, the men will have it, says Goldtooth. Food and shelter, of good lodging through the winter, an equal share for any worrying done, and free to leave as we please. Come the summer.
Come to somewhere we can negotiate and see what the situation is. I won't hold you in my hall against your will. But while you are there, I'll need an oath.
We can give it, Lord,
Good.
if you'll feed us, keep us with ale, lodging. We'll keep your law and peace and fight for you.
Good. Well, then you're more than welcome. We're going to leave today, so if you're ready to go and pack your things, and then meet you at the west gate. East gate.
He gives a gold flashed smile at that and will reach forward with a warrior's hand to grip your own. Aye, Lord. And he'll like turn back to his men and do that telltale whistle through his gold teeth to them, get them into action, and they'll go back to fully disassemble their camp and grab all of their gear to meet you at the west gate by noon or so. They'll loiter around there until you approach. So the hovel containing the former battle brothers of Holmfrid looms large as you stride towards it and Thrymnir. It's mid-morning or so. The door is closed. The thoroughfare is bustling before you as you cut a swathe through the chaotic traffic there. But before you get to knock on the door, we'll take a long-awaited bio, smoko, drinko break.
Yeah.
And because they come back in 5 to 10 minutes or so, and then we'll do the last part of the session.
Cool. Sounds good.
Cool.
Cool, BRB.
I wonder if there's any food we can buy while we're here.
Yeah, I was wondering that too, actually. Guess we can
Maybe
eat
if we... Oh, we're going to sacrifice them anyway.
yeah. Yep.
Maybe if we sacrifice some ran, it'll give us some mighty haul of fish.
A whale washed up on shore.
Yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so I reckon we can sacrifice the old people,
Mm.
which is 20, which is a lot of people to sacrifice. But I feel like you're right. Like, Dropleg is right about that. Like, Ram is not used to having stuff taken from her. Won't tolerate it.
Yes. And is want to visit back any slight against her tenfold.
Yep.
Yeah, not someone you. I mean, you can really see how. Yeah, anyone using the wave roads definitely want to keep on the good side.
Yes. Yep.
Particularly if you're building a harbor.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Might even be worth considering building a small shrine to Ran at Helgaske. You know.
Yeah, I didn't realize looking at the map. I thought maybe you'd taken the Fane of Ram just by right of conquest, but
no, we stopped there on our first journey after we raided the place. On the way down to Raudaclatter. There was no Scalahold back then. It didn't exist. Like, it was ruined, and then we sort of gave it to Maga, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, because she helped you take Helgaske.
Yeah.
Is that right?
No, she didn't. She did something magic for us. I think it might have been before we had you. She removed a curse from a weapon or something like that.
Okay.
Weapon, I think. Cursed a weapon for you guys to
cursed
use.
a weapon. That's right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, to draw the
Yeah, Scalahold was ruins but inhabited by fishing families.
Yeah.
But you guys didn't go there and went instead to the Fane of Ran when you first sailed that coast.
Yeah.
But that'd be the place to do the sacrifice, probably, to connect it back to where the crime, the slight was suffered.
Yep.
Boom.
Cool. So yeah, and Thrimnir. Is Jeff back? Oh, I'll just wait then.
Just sat down. Yep.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so in Thrimnir, you're approaching this hovel, hustle and bustle of small folk and hire going back and forth over the thoroughfares. You can cross that easily enough and get up to the building that you remember from late last night that Catler had been banging on the door of.
Yeah, and I assume that there are as many hangovers within this domicile. So he will slam on the door with his fist to wake up the denizens within.
Yeah, you've got to slam a couple of times, and the last one is interrupted as the door swings in the same man that you'd noticed briefly last night, telling Cutler off, rubbing at his eye with one hand, bringing the door in with the other. He's got a fur wrapped around him, but is naked from the waist up. What is it? Who are you?
I'm going to take advantage of the fact that in his groggy state and the daylight searing the eyeballs, I'm just going to walk past him straight in.
Hey, you! Oh! And at the sound of that, other men, other bundles of fur on the ground, begin rolling around and coming to. You notice the movement of 3 men laying around in the center of this single-roomed hovel, around a coals of a hearth, as well as the man standing up, clad in a fur, who'd let you in.
Am I mistaken, or did I hear songs and boasts coming from this dwelling last evening?
They were celebrating what wealth we've garnered under the flame sower, and remembering our dead, of course.
Ah, so you've a place, a jarl to swear and serve, and a hall to spend the winter in.
We'll stay here under the flame sower, where his soldiers.
I met a woman you left out in the cold last night. Pregnant by a Holmfred, I believe. Former shield brother of yours.
One of the men who's like roused up from his furs looks ashamed at this and will look away from you, and the two others will look between you and the man standing. Aye, Cartler. She was Holmfred's whore. We drove her off. She does not belong to any of us. If she's your woman now, good for you. You're father to a bastard.
She's not my woman, but you would leave the mother and future child of a fallen friend to wither and to freeze and to starve.
No. But there's no certainty that the child that she bears is even Holmfred's. You know her type, and at that he like stifles like a belch. To whether he's hungover state or just like sheer aloofness, not sensitive to the depth of the situation he's currently in.
Yeah, I'm going to look around at the others. I think it's known that it's Holmfred's. Give me a keepsake to give to her. An item of his so the child is something of an ancestor to hold on to.
One of the men in the furs, not the one who couldn't meet your gaze, he like shifts his hand towards what you can see now as a blade in a scabbard that lays next to his bed and instinctively pulls it tighter to himself. And the man who'd let you in looks from that movement to you. It's mine, says the laying down man. He wanted that I should have it. You'll know that. And not give what's rightly earned by me in the shield wall to you, some stranger. And at that, he'll like stand up from the furs, just like with his like loincloth and strides beneath, with the blade still sheathed in the scabbard.
I'll take a quick step towards him so I can get within the reach, arm's reach. So I'll rip your cock off and feed it to the hounds, and you have no fucking sword to go to Valhall with. Is there a single muscle in your body that does not twitch, knowing the truth behind my words? Or a single drop of blood that does not freeze?
Rad. Roll intimidation. You can have advantage because of circumstance.
Character sheet would help. Where is it? That's a 19.
He looks to the other men, but they're similarly quelled. And like you notice a near imperceptible shake of his hands as like the blade rattles, I should say, in the scabbard. Once he realizes he's defenseless, closed with by like a seriously intent foe, he'll like look down to the blade and slowly like hand it forward to you, handing like forth the blade as he lets free his cowardice. He's shaken. You can see, even though he's a bigger, taller man than you are, your intensity in words and ferocity have quelled him. Holmfred would want the child if it's his to bear his blade, he says to the other men, but they look like they want no bar of this until it put the blade into your hands.
I came here to ask if there was any who would seek to serve a jarl. But you're all poor shield brothers, and I'll be glad not to have you. And I'll put the blade away and stride out, leaving them to watch me walk away.
Yeah, they're frightened, mute. They won't engage you and risk breaking the Colbrander's peace. You stride out with the blade of Holmfred, leaving Thorberg and the other two to watch from the doorway. They'll eventually close it and argue to themselves, and one will berate the others. Why did you not help me? We could have taken him, and all of that kind of talk after like being ashamed like that. But you can leave all of that mewling, piteous shite behind you, and clasp the sheathed blade of Holmfred up, and make your way back towards the ox head. Before long, you're all convened back at the Oxhead, and now your own folk are making their way to and from Gulnjaford and out towards the western gate, from where you'll make your departure around noonish. It's there that Arne would find you, your brother Ingvar, and he'd have a couple of those wiry, bedraggled-looking warriors that he'd brought with him to treat with Ygritte some weeks ago. And he'd like walk up almost with like a sheepish look, like that he shouldn't have, for having to come and interrupt you while there's like so much activity and lordliness going on around you. Little brother, a moment, please. We're for the road, and I wanted to give my respects and congratulations once more.
Of course. And he'll like wander over to them.
We're for the coast, and then the painted cliffs. I hope the winter is kind to you and Ygritte.
Well, it'll be soft down here, I guess. I hope it's kind to you up north.
It won't be. If you ever get sick of the south, you know there's always a place at the painted cliff for you. For the both of you.
If you ever get sick of it up there, it's nice and warm down here. And the women are fat.
Too fat. Too hot, he says, and like looks about sniffing at the town, and then cracks a slight smile. An uneasy one, but a smile nonetheless.
Mm.
You seem to have good folk and bright bondsmen about you. I think the future will be kind to you, he says, looking at like the, Rake and Thrimnir, Orgla and Droplag and the others of your party, overseeing the steady stream of thralls and new acquisitions to Halagaska here to and fro. A success already. Father would be proud. And Balder would be jealous.
Father being proud is one thing, but Balder being jealous, that makes it all worthwhile.
It does that. Well, best of luck, brother. Jarl.
And you. Send, and he was going to say send letters, but no one writes up north. Come and visit every now and then. Next summer, maybe, when the thaw happens and there's to be more war, maybe we'll meet then.
You'll go east with the flame sower?
I have to. We all have to.
More boys from the cliff. I hope it's worth it.
So far, it's been well worth it for me. That's what you need to do next time. Sneak down here and find somewhere on a nice, soft southern coast. There's always room in my hull for you.
Thank you, Ingvar. Well, his miles will not eat themselves, and he'll reach out a hand.
Yeah, Ingvar will do the same.
Yeah, he'll give a nod of his head and affirm a couple of handshakes, and still uneasy, but with less unease than previous, he'll make his departure from you and towards his other men, and they'll go to the gatehouse and out on their journey north or northwest.
Yeah, he'll kind of watch them go and think about like that life that he left behind, and most of his like connections to it are gone now. Like the idea of vengeance is gone. And that still sits uneasy with him. So he kind of like looks a little sort of forlorn at the idea of never settling that debt.
You must be the Black Hand, says a rumbling voice from behind you.
I am.
When you turn, you see this hulking man, shaved head, gruesome scar up the side of his face, giving him like a bloody kind of smiling look. Huge hands hanging lankly from the bottom of these brawny arms, and flanked by a mother, maiden, and crone behind him, who are trying their best to look demure and ladylike, while he like uncordially strides forward with no bow or handshake or any kind of show of respect like that, and is quite bold in his saying so. Exclamation! You must be the Black Hand. When you turn and say, "I am," he says, "Good, that is well. I'm Yodva, and these are my wives, Lord. I was told to come find you by your man," and he like kind of goes on his tippy toes even though he doesn't need to, and looking about, surveying the ranks, and like sees Anthrimnir approaching Orgler and Droplaug, and points a meaty finger like a rolling pin down towards them. Down towards Anthrimnir.
Okay, and what do you do, Yodvar? You fight?
I can fight, and I can fell lumber just as easy as men, and I can weather the storm so far of these three. They're all good women, Lord, can sew and cook, and their tongues are shrill. But I can build stout walls, so don't worry, Lord.
Well, that's good. Well, we need every man we can get, Yodvar.
Well, I can give you one of those, Lord. I'm told that you have a warm, long haul, and food a stock for all the winter. My wives would treat me sorely if I refused an offer from a lord like this.
Wives? More than one?
Oh, Lord, every man is cursed. I was cursed with love. 3 times, and he holds up 3 rolling pins.
They don't really do that anymore. More than one wife? They're not trolls?
He leans in and puts like a meaty hand up to his face, like a curtain of flesh, and says, truthfully, Lord, I'm more thrall to them.
Well, I can understand that.
I captured them well enough in the Colbranders campaign, but I free them. It's a southern thing to keep a bird in a cage, and he looks back smiling at each of the 3 of them, which you think combined are still a pretty like repulsive prospect.
Well, as long as you behave yourself and you obey my laws while you're there, you're more than welcome. We'll work you. That's for certain. We have a lot to do this winter.
I hear much wood that needs felling, building. I can help with this, Lord, he says earnestly, and rubs his like hands together, like sounds like tree roots uprooting.
Yes, a lot of building, a lot of chopping, a lot of work. But if you're willing to do the work, you can stay.
And food enough for my wives, and somewhere to stay, Lord, until I can build our own.
That's right.
He rubs his hands on his chest and smiles broadly at them, like now, like the nervousness gone at what is it, worried that what his wives would say if he stuffed this up. I would accept, Lord, and he'll dwarf both of your hands in his and take a knee which puts him at about nipple height for you.
Very good. Well, you're welcome. There's a lot to be done even here now, so why don't you help these people get their stuff packed up? We're leaving very soon.
We carry all we own, Lord, and I can do for that. And he'll like walk down to the folk to begin helping them, and these 3 wives will bow and curtsy and all say, "My Lord," and move off with him to help the folk as people do.
Yeah.
Your train like comes together and begins to congregate around the west gate. Your debts are settled at the Ox Head, and like everyone's kind of bustled past your scrutiny, and your closest retainers now come back up to you. Is there anything else any of you wish to do in Gulnjaford?
I would like to wait like a reasonable amount, but not so much that it would fuck up our journey for oh my god, what's her name? Grimhild. To see, like, so we can accompany them on the way home, because I know they go the same way as us for much of the way. And there's so many of us that we can keep them safe, sort of. So if it's convenient to wait for them, then we will. But if it's anything more than like 20 or 30 minutes, it's not really worth it.
Okay. Yeah, so maybe after you've waited 20 minutes or so, and everyone's kind of, saddled up, readied everything, all that kind of stuff, and now it's just waiting. On the cusp of when you're about to forego it and mount up yourself and head out with your column, Hengist, dressed in like the drab, faded blue of his mistress, with his helm on and blade at his side, just like ever the vigilant kind of, the dude who always has ironed pants, as we'd think of him, strides up towards you. Lord, I looked for you at the Ox Head. My mistress wishes your attendance, he says, not meaning your eye.
Oh, I was waiting. How convenient. I was waiting here for her, so we could escort you back.
I see, Lord. Then you might find a meeting with her to your liking. I suspect she wishes the same. She is at the song, at the chambers that you requisitioned for her lord.
Good. Then I'll go, and I'll just like do like a quick like for Yura and Anthrimnir to follow me, like bodyguard wise, and then we'll go there.
So Grimhild will receive you in her chambers at the Siren Song, which equally to what you'd experienced at the Oxhead was flat out busying. And she would like smile and rise from like the bed that she was sitting at the side of, like embroidering or drawing whatever it been that she might have been putting to task. She sets it aside and will come to the door and give like a slight bow of her head, my lord. And Hengist will like stand at the door as it's opened, acting like a guard.
Lady, we were waiting for you, hoping you hadn't left yet to escort you home.
My lord, I had sent Hengist to fetch you that I might ask the very thing, seeing that we were both heading westerly a time. We might travel together for our mutual safety, though, of course. Our own men number fewer than yourselves, but what we could offer you, we would, lord, for the road if it's to your liking.
The benefit of your company is far outweighed by any amount of men you could bring.
Then we would be honored to travel in your company. Perhaps you might stop in and see my father, lord. I'm sure he would wish to thank you personally for the kindness you've shown me.
Certainly, I would like that.
Then I could have the men readied. It would not take long, lord. We would not wish to hold you up or cost you unjustly.
We will wait. And he'll like wave a hand as if it's no big deal, even though there's like 100 people outside waiting to go. Because we've required so many thralls here and like new warriors and stuff. But even so, it's not a problem. We'll wait until you're ready.
Yeah, it'd be less than an hour till they've got all their things together and they go to the stables and get their own horses that they'd brought here. And they'll mount up and fall in with your own column and some 70, 60 folk collectively under you. Right out. That's not including the crew of the Necker that had already sailed yesterday.
And I guess we'll have to make sure we've got food for everyone, at least for the trip back.
Yeah, that's right. We'd have to buy some food, I guess, because it's a few days, isn't it?
60. Yeah, it's going to for a 200 hack silver. You could have cover yourself for the journey, or you could take it out of your stocks already existing.
No,
Document if you want. Okay.
Yeah,
It'd be base gruel and porridge and things like that, but
perfect.
enough to sustain people.
200
and a couple of mules to carry it.
Yeah.
Mules will be expensive, so I'm going to say 15 hack silver. So if you buy 3 mules, 45 hack silver.
Okay. 245 for the whole thing.
And you took out the hack silver that you paid the slave master for the
Yep.
40. Cool.
Yeah, and for the 2 women that I bought as well, the 120.
And so with that, your column heads out from Gulnjaford west upon the trail, which early on is thronged by many other travellers and like recent guests to Uthil's Holdfast. But at the further you journey, the more sparsely populated the road becomes, until eventually it's just your broad, swelling numbered column that's like snaking along, lazily following the, well, not lazily, I should say, strictly following the wend and weft of the Bard's Mouth River. West until you reach the outskirts of Eysteins Holdfast in the eastern extent of the thickly wooded Bardskoga, and approaching the border stones of that territory with your guests and newfound followers in tow, I think is where we'll leave this session, and we'll take it up at Eysteins Hold next time on Fire in the North.
Sounds good.